It's time for Watts on Wealth Radio with Barry Watts and your host, Ralph Hibb.
We're getting very close to the end of the year, and 2025 is sure going to bring about several changes for retirees, namely Medicare. They're getting set to undergo several key potential changes, which might affect you retirees all throughout the Ozarks. Welcome into today's Watts on Wealth show, and this Sunday, Barry Watts of the WealthCare Corporation will tell us a bit about what to expect in Medicare, what it'll look like next year, how to get ready for some of these changes during this open enrollment period, by the way, and give you some other helpful insights into the future of this very critical healthcare benefit. Hello, Barry.
Well, hello and good morning, Ralph. Good Sunday morning to you and to our listeners. Get up, get up, get up. You've still got time to make it to church this morning.
You do. How was your week? Anything spectacular you want to tell us about in the Ozarks?
Well, there's, I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of anything particularly this week that was incredible. But, I woke up every day. I'm on the right side of the dirt. I'm
that's
taking
good.
Nourishment, as they say. And those are all positive things. So it's a beautiful time of the year. I love the fall when it's a little crisp outside, but yet the days are still plenty warm. This is my time of year.
Me too. Barry, let's get to our topic today. Before we get into these specifics of what people can expect from the changes in Medicare, let's start by asking where the changes are coming from. Why will Medicare look different in 2025?
Well, because your congressman had to do something to make it look like he was earning his keep, and that is called the Inflation Reduction Act. It was passed in 2022. It was pushed by the White House, so this is Biden legislation, and it actually had nothing to do with reducing inflation and didn't help to accomplish that, but they wanted you to think it did, so that's why they called it the Inflation Reduction Act. And so the new provisions that were passed in 2022 will actually take place in 2025, but there are some changes that have already happened in the law from the past couple of years. So in 2023, Medicare capped the cost of insulin in Part D, the prescription drug plan part, at $35 a month. And they eliminated out-of-pocket costs for some of the recommended vaccines, not meds, but vaccines. And so then this year, the government has expanded eligibility for financial assistance from the Part D Extra Help Program. And all of that came out of the Inflation Reduction Act in 2022. Note that neither of those things, nothing in Medicare actually has to do with inflation reduction. And that's the way these guys are. Even though they should, they don't make the laws headline. They don't give the headline on the law, the name of the bill, and make it be what the contents really are. And I think that's a terrible shame.
But just they like that phrase, inflation reduction. They just love to sweeten that up and throw that out there, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's politically popular, particularly in times of high inflation. Oh, thank goodness they passed that Inflation Reduction Act. Well, call it whatever you want to call it. If it doesn't really reduce inflation, that wasn't what it was.
Is changing Medicare an annual thing, Barry? Do changes to Medicare happen very often?
Well, it happens on the whims of lawmakers. And that can be concerning to hear because it's very important to retirees. And, when the older you get, the more you're like, just make it steady for me. Not a lot of changes, please. So what I would say to folks is that the good news is when these changes do come down the pipe, as they do once in a while, Ralph, we have got a Medicare expert on our staff at the WealthCare Corporation. He handles all of our clients' Medicare questions. His name is Matt Dean. You're going to love him. Funny story about Matt. The other day, he met a client for the first time, and then he met her for the second time. She became a client of ours, actually. She wasn't a client, but he met her. She became a client of ours. And the next day, she came back and brought him flowers.
Oh.
So that tells you the kind of guy Matt is. He's a sweet fellow. People love him, and he will take great care of folks on the Medicare questions. And that's just really, really important. We do cover every aspect of retirement in our 6 steps to retirement confidence. And one of the steps that we go through, step number 4, actually deals with Medicare. And Matt's the specialist that deals with that area. So call us up here at the WealthCare Corporation. We'll put you in touch with Matt, and he'll answer your Medicare questions.
It's always good to call the flower shop, folks, and having a little nice thought in there. And we've got another nice thought for you to call Barry Watts at the WealthCare Corporation. Let me get you that number all around the Ozarks, 417-200-3500 to chat with Barry on your own, 417 all over the Ozarks, 200-3500. What are some of the key changes we can see in Medicare next year? And I know, Barry, you want to particularly talk about Part D.
Well, yeah, the big changes come in Part D. That's the drug part, and it's going to cap your out-of-pocket spending on covered drugs. They have to be covered in the plan at $2,000 a year. So the maximum cost you're going to be out is going to be $2,000. Now, hopefully, you've got a Medicare supplement that's going to pay for that. But that $2,000 cap includes deductibles and co-payments and co-insurance for covered drugs, but it doesn't include or apply to the premiums or into any drug that's not covered by your formulary. That's the list of drugs that are covered in the plan. So it is possible that you'll see big variations in premiums and copayments and covered drugs and so forth during open enrollment, which we're in the middle of right now. But the good news is you got a $2,000 cap going forward on drugs, deductibles, copayments, and coinsurance.
Now, Barry, what do you suggest to people all around Springfield listening to our show, and we're glad you are, by the way, who might be affected by all these Medicare changes?
Well, I really think, Ralph, that it would be just a great idea to find someone who can help you keep up with the changes and determine what's right for you and for your health, because there are big mistakes that you can make otherwise. For example, here's just some of the mistakes. Number one, you could get caught in the Medigap trap.
Oh, no.
You see there, that's a bad trap.
What's the trap?
There are all kinds of things that Medicare doesn't cover. And if you don't know about those and navigate yourself correctly, you could wind up with expenditures that are actually not covered by Medicare. And if you don't have the right coverage in place, they might not even be covered by your supplement or your Advantage plan. So you don't want to be trapped by healthcare either. I should say health, not healthcare. You don't want to be trapped by your health in a policy that you don't want. For example, when you own a Medicare Advantage plan and you decide for whatever reason you want to go back to a Medicare supplement, well, when you get ready to do that, the Medicare supplement gets to underwrite you. And if they don't like your health, they'll say, no, we won't take you. And so it's really important to be in the right space, to pick the best plan first, if you possibly can, to avoid getting caught in the Medigap trap where they're not paying all the bills that you need paid. Now, the second problem you can get into is the wrong doctor problem, because depending on what kind of plan you have, you might not be able to pick the doctor you want. For example, Medicare Advantage plans generally are designed so that you go to a certain set of doctors that are covered by that Advantage plan. So here in Southwest Missouri, maybe it's the Mercy doctors, or maybe it's the Cox doctors, but in most cases, it's not both. Now, there are some exceptions to that. So you want to be real careful that you don't get roped into just one set of physicians. You want to be able to pick from the best physician in the marketplace, regardless of what healthcare system they practice in. And if you're using a Medicare supplement instead of an Advantage plan, the supplement will allow you to go to any doctor who accepts Medicare, regardless of what healthcare system they're in. And that's one of the reasons that many of our clients prefer the supplement over the Advantage plan. But we've got people who do both. Now, the next problem that you want to avoid, Medicare mistake that people make, is what we call drug deficits, just meaning that the drugs you need are not covered. So when you go to buy your Part D plan, they should show you the formulary. And that is, I don't know why they call it a formulary. Why do we have all these complicated words?
What does that even mean?
It's the drug list.
The drug list.
It's the list of things that they will pay for. And you want to be sure your drugs are covered in the formulary. In fact, that's the way we pick Part D plans, is we say, tell me what drugs you're taking, and then we'll go search for a plan that meets the criteria and covers those particular drugs. So don't get yourself locked into a plan that doesn't cover the drugs that are right for you. And all you got to do is provide us a list of the drugs, and we'll find the plan that fits you. And then finally, I think here's something really important to avoid. It's getting biased advice. You do know that people who sell Medicare products, either Advantage or supplements, get paid for selling those. And Medicare Advantage products pay them more. So there is kind of a tendency to sort of lean people toward Medicare Advantage because the salesperson gets paid more. And frankly, it's an easier sale because Medicare Advantage, as a general rule, you don't have to pay for. Now, you do pay for it in another way. You pay higher copays and more participation, coinsurance in the costs as you experience healthcare. But up front, you don't have to lay any money out, and that's really attractive to people. But be aware that that's how it works. And there's no free lunch. You're going to pay one way or another. Now, here at the WealthCare Corporation, we don't care which products our clients choose. If they choose a Medicare Advantage plan, good for them. If they choose a Medicare supplement plan, good for them. We show them all their options. We help them break down between the two so they know which type of plan they want. And then when they choose that, we'll show them multiple different plans within either the supplement category or the advantage category, and they get to decide which one works for them. So what I would suggest that folks do if they have these kind of questions is pick up the phone and call our office today and ask to speak with Matt. Matt is our Medicare specialist, and you're going to love him. He'll take great care of you, because that's what we do here at the Wealth Care Corporation is we go overboard to take care of the people who entrust their retirement future to us.
Barry Watts and I are talking over changes to Medicare. This is your host, Ralph Hipp, on the Watts on Wealth radio show. And yes, that number, 417-200-3500, 200-3500, to call and make an appointment with Barry or Matt. Now, at the end of the day, when it comes to your plan, whatever you decide, and this is something, you can't wait till 2025 to do this stuff. This is something that has to be done in the next month, has to be done right now. The details are what matter. And keeping up with these Medicare changes means watching all of it closely, not missing out on the important information. You're going to be getting things in the mail. So listening to our show, Barry and I want to invite you to come and meet with the team. And Barry, it's no cost, absolutely no obligation to our friends listening in, right?
That's exactly right, Ralph. We don't know that we can help people when they come to see us. We don't want the issue of cost to get in the way of them asking questions. And so we're happy to sit down and to give folks a little of our time to just have a conversation and see if it's a fit and if we think we can do them some good.
That'd be lovely. So Barry and Matt, I don't know, do you guys meet together with somebody, Barry? You and Matt team up, tag team, and discuss it?
Well, we used to, but no, we're just too busy for that. There are too many people calling off of radio and TV and wanting to see us. And so Matt and I both have pretty tight schedules.
Sure.
Right now, I happen to be booked out into January. So I'm booked out more than 2 months before I've got any availability on my calendar. But Matt has some availability as early as I think next week. And so that's the reason we approach this as a team. I supervise all of the retirement planning that is done. So anytime one of our associate advisors prepares a plan for somebody, they come and lay it in front of me, and I go through the plan, ask questions, and say, okay, did we adjust this? Did we do that? Did we fix that? But today we work as a team through a number of advisors and other people in our office who are not advisors, but who help in the process. So when you come to WealthCare, you don't just hook up with one person. When you come to WealthCare, you get the whole team of more than a dozen people working for you to be sure that you get what you need, when you need it, as quickly as possible, in the best way possible.
And the WealthCare Corporation, they can walk you through all these Medicare changes Barry and I are talking about, what it means to you. Talk over Medicare, how it fits in with your other benefits and your retirement and your whole retirement picture, giving you an assessment of what they think might be missing and what could be made stronger for you. So that's the WealthCare Corporation, 417-200-3500. Text the word visit today, and also text the word book to get Barry's book, Watts on Wealth. Watts on Wealth, also our radio show. Time for a break. We'll be back with more and get to our main topic of conversation for the day right after this.
Having trouble planning your retirement? Planning doesn't have to be complicated. Barry Watts can help you simplify it with his Retirement Toolkit. In it, you'll find a copy of his Retirement Income Planning Booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your toolkit, text KIT, that's K-I-T, to 417-200-3500. That's KIT, K-I-T, to 417-200-3500.
Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare Corporation understand no matter how the 2024 presidential election shakes out, it's going to have a huge impact on your retirement. Now, more than ever, it's important that you have a clear understanding of what's at stake with your finances, because as we've already seen, anything could happen. Major election surprises, like the ones we've been seeing, can potentially tip the balance on our economy. We also know our current tax rates are going to expire at the end of next year, and then they'll go back up. Do you think your finances are ready for all of this? Barry's Election Stress Test can help you find out. Schedule yours today with the WealthCare Corporation team by calling or texting ELECTION to 417-200-3500. That's ELECTION to 417-200-3500. Call or text ELECTION to 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services offered through duly registered individuals through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC. An investment advisor in the states of Missouri and California. Investing involves risk.
Are you worried about where your money will go in retirement? No need to worry. Barry Watts is here to help you plan for your retirement future. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to set up a meeting with Barry Watts to see what he can do for you. Again, that's text VISIT to 417-200-3500 today.
Welcome back in this lovely Sunday morning. More of your very popular Watts on Wealth radio show. And along with J. Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation, this is Ralph Hipp. We're delighted you're with us. You know, when you plan for your retirement, you might want to consider all the risks that are out there, risks your money could face. Because if you don't take some steps now, preserving your money from risk, your retirement could be at risk as well. Barry, let's talk about that. Our main topic of the day, what are some of the biggest potential threats to our retirement income that are lurking out there?
Well, Ralph, there are threats lurking. I don't think you have to be afraid of them. You have to be aware of them. And if you've done the things that you need to do, which we lead you to do through our 6 Steps to Retirement Confidence, well, then the threats are neutralized and it's not a problem. But for example, one of the things that comes up that I think is really important to deal with is taxes. The fact of the matter is there are a lot of things that you can do to save money on taxes. And I don't mean just a few dollars. I mean hundreds of thousands of dollars, certainly over your lifetime, but maybe tens of thousands of dollars in any given year. And so in retirement, you need to realize if you don't get the taxes right, nothing else is going to matter. And tax planning has to be a central part of your retirement plan. Now, most people work with advisor type folks, stockbroker types, whatever they call themselves, investment representatives. I always like that one because think about what that means. They're representing the investment. They're not representing you. I think that's a dumb title. I want somebody who's representing me,
right?
The client representative. But most people work with folks who, if you go to them and you say, hey, I got some tax questions and I want to know, and I need, how's the tax going to work on this and what happens and can I reduce my taxes? They'll say, well, we don't really deal with that. You need to go talk to, your CPA about that. Well, that's a fine answer. In fact, I used to give that answer, but I got tired of giving it to people and having them have that sad, long face when they said, well, I talked to my CPA and he doesn't really know. He doesn't really answer that question for me. And so I went back, actually studied under the auspices of the IRS and got credentialed from the IRS to represent people in tax disputes with the IRS. And I'm now credentialed to help them take those 70,000 pages of tax law and turn those into tools that they can use to save money in taxes. So our firm runs toward taxes instead of away from taxes. And not only do I do that work, I've trained our advisors to do that work. And we actually have a CPA on staff who used to be with the IRS. So he was the tax man at one point. And he helps oversee that process and make sure that everything is compliant. So you need to deal with taxes. Really, really important. Second thing you need to deal with is longevity. You're probably going to live longer than you think. Ralph, when I first got in this business 32 years almost ago now, people, if we planned them to their mid-70s, and if they got to mid-70s, they lived longer than that. It was just their own darn fault. Now, you can think about how that hits you, Ralph, at 70 years old.
I am 70 on the mark. Yes, 70.
Yeah, and you're just getting started. I'm thinking if I just got you planned to 74, that probably wouldn't be sufficient. So the way we do it is we plan people all the way to age 100. And I get a lot of pushback on that. I won't live to be 100. I understand that. The point is, I don't want to plan you to 80 and so you run out of money at 80 and then you live to be 88.
Right.
In fact, I had a client just in this past week who's a professional executive, laid out all of his finances to me. And when we ran all of his numbers, he and his wife are going to run out of money at 82.
82?
They will, 82. They're out of money. And if the market goes against them, because we can test for those kinds of things, they're going to run out of money at about age 77. Now, I guarantee you this guy plans to live longer than 82. And fortunately, we were able to do some things for him that stretched that into his late 90s. So we were able to kind of rearrange his thinking and how he's handling his investment and how he's handling his taxes. And we got him stretched out to his late 90s. So it added a lot of sense of confidence and relief, took some pressure off of him. I would say one of the things that people do wrong that they need to pay attention to that's a threat is having, different ways to say it. It has to do with your investments. Maybe the idea is having all your eggs in one basket, or I'd rather even say improperly balanced baskets. For example, we always talk to people about how much they would like to have in protected principal. So if the market goes bad, you can't get away. And it's often that people will say, well, I want 30 or 40 or 50, maybe even 60% in the protected category, that nothing can happen to that money. Had a client in this week who the amount of money that they had protected was only 14%. And I don't think that's really enough. So it's important to have the baskets, to know where all of them are, to have them well organized. Don't have your stuff scattered across 8 different firms in 6 different cities. Have it all well organized and know what the proper balance is so that you're protected no matter what happens. And then finally, I would say just simply being unprepared. Now, there are people who haven't bothered to deal with market risk. I'm dealing with a prospective client right now who is 96% subject to just whatever the stock market does. And right now, that's pretty good because the markets, have worked well in recent times, but there are times where the markets don't work well. And if he's not very careful, what happens is he gets in the middle of that time, 4 or 5 years into retirement, too far to turn back and go back to work. And the market turns against him, and he has to start cutting his expenses because he doesn't have enough money left to get he and his wife all the way to age 100. So you need to deal with market risk, long-term care risk. Long-term care, 3 out of 4 people who are listening to us today are going to have a long-term care experience. I hope you're not one of them, but 3 out of 4 people are going to be that. And so you need a plan for how you're going to pay for that. And over, I ask people about it, and they just kind of look at me dumb. They look at me like a calf staring at a new gate. My farmer friends out there, they know exactly what I mean when I say a calf.
It's kind of where am I going here, Barry? Which direction?
Yeah,
am I
they
going?
just look at me like, I don't know what that question meant. I don't know what to do with that question. Long-term care is going to happen. You got to have a plan to deal with it.
You do.
We help people find the solutions and implement solutions to those kind of problems. So those are some of the right off the top of my head, some of the biggest risks that people face that are threats to their retirement. There are others, but that's a good list for us to start on.
When you're talking about people living to be 88 or 89, it reminds me of my mother, and she played the piano beautifully, played by ear, could just play a song, hearing it, and then play it. But when she turned 88, she said, Mom, you got 1 key on the piano for every year you've been around. But she lived to be 89. She did 1 more key there, but didn't get to 90. But, I think, it's totally conceivable once we get past this pandemic and the long-term effects of that. And if you don't have a long-term care situation, people do live to be 100, Barry, and we need to plan for that. So can you tell me, are a lot of people worried about outliving their money, and why would that be?
Well, I think people are worried about that, and I think they ought to be worried about it. You ask why? Because they're paying attention.
That's good.
Morningstar Center for Retirement Policy Studies recently released a report that says half of Americans will run out of money if they retire at age 65. 50% of people will run out of money if they retire at age 65. Now, Ralph, I've got more local numbers. Do you know how many of our listeners will run out of money, Ralph?
I think there's some pretty high percentages there, Barry, or over half.
50%. Half of them, or over half, a little bit. So here's the point. It's even worse if you're single. 55% of single women will run out of money in retirement. If you're Hispanic, 61% of them will run out in retirement. Black folks, 59% of them will run out of money in retirement if they retire at age 65. So it's a problem that faces half of the population. It doesn't face half the people who come to see me, because the people who come to see me have tended to give better attention to their retirement. That's why they're coming in the first place. But of the generic folks just walking down the street, 1 out of every 2 is going to have a retirement income problem. And that's going to be pretty serious for folks who are too crippled up and too old and too tired and too sour to go back to work.
Barry, I know you guys at the WealthCare Corporation, you can help us deal with the costs of healthcare and long-term healthcare costs. And we mentioned that figure. It's $300,000 at least. How do you help us get ready for that? And $300,000 to put away that we can't touch in case we need it for long-term healthcare costs.
Well, Ralph, you're quoting a study that was done by Fidelity. Fidelity, the big finance company, did a study on the cost of healthcare. And what they concluded out of their study was that the average couple needed to set aside $300,000 after taxes. So that's going to be about $400,000 before taxes for healthcare during their retirement years. And that did not include any long-term care costs. And so they've got to really pay attention to this, because one of the problems that comes up is you can't buy long-term care insurance anymore. That's almost true. There are some exceptions, but it's really hard to buy long-term care insurance. So we've got a couple of strategies that deal with that particular problem. We actually have got some special annuities that are new to the marketplace that will actually convert into long-term care payments if people get in a long-term care situation. And so that can be a good tool that we sometimes use. But one of the things that I use personally, this is what I've done, and that many of our clients use, is the Private Insured Retirement Advantage account. It's called a PIRA, Private Insured Retirement Advantage account. And that is a specially kind of constructed life insurance policy. But here's the beautiful part of it. It accelerates the death benefit so that it pays a living benefit in case you need to use it for long-term care. Now, what people don't like about long-term care policies is if you don't use them, you're fortunate enough to die in your sleep, never use your policy, well, then you don't get that money back. Well, if you're using a PIRA account, there is a 100% guarantee that you or your heirs, are going to get to use that money. You can take it out yourself and spend it tax-free if you wanted to on anything you want. It accelerates the death benefit and pays the death benefit out as a living benefit tax-free if you need to use it for long-term care purposes. And if you're fortunate enough to never need long-term care and you've got enough other money, you just never wind up spending any of this tax-free money, well, then when you die, the benefits all go to your children or your heirs tax-free. So it's a really good tool, and that's one of the ways that we help people deal with that long-term care expense as well.
Friends listening to Barry talk about PIRAs, are you looking at each other and go, I didn't know anything about that. And that's what Barry does. Barry knows all about this. That's why he's there at the Wealth Care Corporation to help you explore some other options that can really help you in the retirement that you're dreaming of. So give Barry a call. Text the word book. I'll talk about the book in just a moment here. Text book to get the book, Watts on Wealth. Text visit to visit with Barry. You can text even today or give him a call during the week. It's 417-200-3500 in Springfield. Barry Watts on Wealth, the book. It's a great read. And along with watching us on starting in January, Barry and I are on all the Springfield TV stations with our half-hour show. We've got our radio show right here and the book. So all that together really gives you a clear picture on planning your retirement with Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation. So Barry, how do we get a copy of the book and hopefully sign it for us?
Well, it's really simple, Ralph. The book is Watts on Wealth, and you can go buy it on Amazon, but you don't have to do it that way. If you'll actually reach out to us, we will send you an autographed copy of the book free. It's 137 pages of all the information you need. I had a guy coming in last week who just mentioned to me, he said, I was sitting at the beach reading your book. Had another person who listens to our radio show who came in a week before last, and he had read everything in the book and was quoting it to me. And he's like, great. Well, in your last paragraph of chapter number 7, you said... And so I thought that was humorous because without looking it up, I can't tell you what the last paragraph in chapter number 7 is. But anyway, people are finding the book compelling and helpful. If you'd like a copy of it, all you have to do is simply take out your phone and send us a text. And in the text, you want to put BOOK, 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 and send that text to this number, 417-200-3500. 417-200-3500. Text the word book, and we'll send a copy of it to you this week.
You'll love having it. The Wisdom of Barry Watts. And we're heading to the top of the hour here, but it's not the end of our hour. We're only halfway done here. Barry and I will continue talking about the risks in retirement right after this break. Don't go away.
Taxes. Can't live with them. Can't live without them. But if you're looking for someone to help you pay as little taxes in retirement as possible, just give Barry Watts a call at the Wealth Care Corporation at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500 to see what Barry Watts can do for you. Having trouble planning your retirement? Planning doesn't have to be complicated. Barry Watts can help you simplify it with his retirement toolkit. In it, you'll find a copy of his retirement income planning booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your toolkit, text KIT, that's KIT, to 417-200-3500. That's KIT, KIT, to 417-200-3500.
And outliving your savings is a big worry for a lot of you in the Ozarks. So if you're worried about outliving your savings, Barry, could that cause us to underspend? We kind of tighten our belts in retirement?
Well, in fact, we call it, Ralph, getting tight.
Yes.
And, I don't know about you, but when I ultimately retire, I don't want to have to be worried about money. I don't want to have to worry about running out of money. I don't want to have to be really careful with the math on, I don't know if I can spend that this month. That's just not the way I want to live. And many people are living that way. And the reason they're living that way is because they don't know. And the reason they don't know is they don't even realize they can know, and they don't know how to get to the knowing spot. So what we like to do is help people get to the knowing spot. What you need is a retirement income plan. And a retirement income plan takes the income that you need. You say whatever the number is. We call it your sitting on the porch number, because if you want to retire and do nothing but sit on the porch, you could do this. And this is the amount of money that would be deposited into your bank every month. How much money do you need deposited into your bank every month to pay all your bills? And once you know that number, that is your sitting on the porch number, then we incorporate that into a retirement income plan that considers your income and all your other retirement investment assets. And it will help you to know, can you spend that much money every month? And will your money last over your lifetime, or will you run out of money like a client that I dealt with recently who was going to run out at age 82? We don't want that to be your case. We want you to have money to last for your lifetime, but you can't know if you don't have a retirement income plan. And the beautiful part about having a plan is once you know, then it gives you freedom. And in most cases, the people who are getting tight are the ones who, they're going to live on less and they're pinching every penny. And in most cases, if they do a retirement income plan, it frees those people up. They can spend more money than they were planning on spending, and they don't spend it with any guilt or any concern. They're not afraid. It works for them. And frequently in our offices, we will have a wife reach over and slap her husband on the shoulder and say, see there, I can remodel the kitchen if I want to. We can take that trip. And we love it when people remodel kitchens, take trips with grandkids, go to places they've always wanted to go, fulfill their bucket list. That's what's really important. And a retirement income plan is what helps you to do that.
I know that sitting on the porch money that you often talk about, Barry, is one of the components of creating a spending plan so that we don't have to get tight and tighten our belts. We can spend confidently in retirement. What goes into creating that plan at the WealthCare Corporation?
Well, the first step is that sitting on the porch number. How much money do you need to spend each month? And then we look at what are your sources of income. Now, for everybody, pretty much, there's Social Security. Very few people don't have Social Security. Or there will be pensions of some type. Maybe you don't have Social Security because you worked for the railroad and you've got the railroad retirement plan. Or maybe you're a teacher, so you've got the teacher's pension, which pretty much replaces Social Security. And so we figure out what are your sources of income that we can count on. And so then we take your sitting on the porch number and we factor in inflation. You don't have to do this for yourself. We'll do the math. You tell us the number for today. We'll figure out what it's going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. We factor in inflation and we compare it to your sources of income. And we say, okay, how much are you going to fall short? If you're going to fall short, and most people are, how much are you going to fall short? Your income doesn't match your sitting on the porch number. That is the amount of money that you're going to need to withdraw from your investment accounts. So now we can take that math about investment accounts and we can figure out how long before you will run out of money. And so then we can say, well, on a scale of from today to age 100, you're great until age 82 and you're out of money at 82 or age 88 or whatever it happens to be. And that kind of shocks people, particularly if it's in the younger years. They're like, oh, that really could be a problem. So saying now we've tightened them up. I didn't want to tighten them up. That wasn't my objective. What I want to do is say, you have a problem, but let me show you how to solve it. So then we begin dealing with the taxes. We reduce their taxes over time. That frees up money to spend. And then we deal with how they're managing their money. Many people are horribly inefficient in how their money is managed, the kind of accounts they're in, the risk they're taking in the markets. When we add efficiency to that and optimize their investment approach, very often we can take somebody who's running out of money in, say, their 80s, and we can extend that money all the way to age 100 and have them die at 100 with several $100,000 left in their account. That's exciting news for them, exciting news for us. And it helps people have a sense of confidence as they approach retirement. And that's what we're all about at the WealthCare Corporation, is confidence in retirement.
417-200-3500. Barry, you mentioned this briefly in tightening the belt. Should we maybe be invested differently in retirement?
Well, differently than what, Ralph?
Like, what do we have in our portfolio or don't really have anything in there? Or we have too much in there?
If you don't have anything in there, that means you're all in cash. Because you don't have any investments. Your only investment is cash. And so obviously that should be invested differently. We see a lot of people in Springfield who they will come in and all they have in their portfolio is O'Reilly Automotive. By the way, great company. they've done a fabulous job, but I don't care how fabulous it is. You don't want all of your eggs in that basket. You have to diversify. How do you know what to diversify into? That's what we specialize in at the WealthCare Corporation. And the company that we actually use for that, one of our sister companies, is WealthCare Asset Management, LLC. It's the company through which we manage money. And we have a process for looking at what you've got, determining how much risk is in what you have currently. And we talk about what kind of risk you want to take, and we measure that risk in miles per hour with the idea that 1 mile an hour is very little risk, doesn't damage you if you have a wreck. And 99 miles an hour, if you have a wreck, it's going to kill you. We figure out what the right risk is for you, and we make sure that you have the portfolio that matches the risk tolerance that you prefer. And then from there, we make sure that you're invested in the sectors of the S&P 500 that are most likely to do well in the coming days based on supply and demand in the marketplace. So should we invest differently? Well, probably so, Ralph. Can't say for sure because I don't know how you're invested. But if our average listener is like the average person who walks into our office, and that's who walks into our office is listeners, so I bet it's going to be the same, then yes, they need to make some adjustments, most definitely.
And we've often talked about, it's always a good rule not to have all those eggs in one basket. That old saying is still holding true for retirement savings. Those people who are just in cash and a little hesitant about making that move, I don't know about being in the market. I know the market's doing well, and if they don't have a lot of retirement accounts that rely on how the market performs, they have it in cash. They're too conservative with their savings. What's the risk of that part of it, Barry?
Well, not keeping up with inflation. I mean, I know a guy who lives in Rogersville, actually. He's my age. So that makes him 61 years old. He has never in all the years, he was working as an executive for a significant company here in town. And in all those years, he was putting money into his 401k, but he never invested in any of the options in the 401k. He let all the money be in cash in the 401k. In many years, his cash account did not keep up with inflation. He missed the opportunity to make probably an average of 6 or 7% per year on a few $100,000 that he had saved in his retirement. And that is going to cost his family big time over the remaining lifetime. And it'll leave less to go to his children and grandchildren as well. And he probably won't have enough money to even pay for his long-term care because he was being too careful. And the reason he was careful is he just didn't have confidence. He just didn't understand how it worked. Frankly, he needed to educate himself. And he wasn't willing to do that. And so I couldn't help him because he wouldn't educate himself. So if you don't keep up with inflation, you're going to run out of money in retirement. Half of people will. That's what the study we have found says from Morningstar. Half of people will actually run out of money in retirement if they retire at age 65. But here's an interesting thing, Ralph. Those who seek retirement counsel, who work with retirement designers like us, only about 15% of them face that same problem. So, and after we work with them, hopefully about 98% of those people, we get them all the way to age 100. So there's very little risk of that occurring. But the point is, if you don't do something, if you don't plan, this is going to bite you in the shorts. And so I want to encourage you to find somebody that you believe in. If you don't know who that is, call us at the WealthCare Corporation. We're delighted to take care of you. It's what we do every day that ends in Y. Is we're taking care of people like you, helping them to invest their precious retirement in a way to make sure that they keep their retirement and have income for their lifetime.
That is the whole mission with Barry and the WealthCare Corporation. Even today, you can text the word VISIT this Sunday. Text VISIT to 417-200-3500. Barry, if they're interested in, I want to be not a 1 on my risk and not to 99, somewhere in the middle there. And if they're not interested in investing in the markets in retirement, what other options and choices do they have? They want to move to the middle, maybe on the risk tolerance scale.
Well, Ralph, people in the middle on the risk tolerance scale are invested in the market. So I want to debunk the idea that I don't want to have anything in the market. Imagine, if you would, sitting around the water cooler and saying, I've just decided if I get cancer, I'll never take chemotherapy. And then imagine you do get cancer and the doctor says, this is not the end of the world. There's some very good news. People that we've treated with this chemotherapy, 95% of them get a total cure. Well, now let me ask, if there's a 95% chance of total cure, would you take the chemo? Well, not if you said, I will never take chemo. So I will never invest in the market because it's risky. Don't make a premature decision that consigns you to death or to financial death. because you need to allow some room for other ideas to percolate. And there are tools that we use that can help you to not lose money when the market loses money, but to actually still earn money all the rest of the time at a pretty good rate, a significant rate that I'm just going to tell you you'd be real pleased with. And we're happy to introduce those tools to you if you'll call us at the Wealth Care Corporation.
Barry can sure help you plan for more volatility in the near future, and give him a call. And what's right for you? That's what we're here for. Get with Barry, and also text the word book to get the Watts on Wealth book, BOOK, at that same number. Well, right after this break, Barry and I get to the part. We love all three parts of our show. We've gone over a lot today. Barry really loves answering your questions out of the mailbag. So we'll get to that. And what are people asking around the Ozarks? We'll get to that right after you hear this.
Having trouble planning your retirement? Planning doesn't have to be complicated. Barry Watts can help you simplify it with his retirement toolkit. In it, you'll find a copy of his retirement income planning booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your toolkit, text KIT, that's K-I-T, to 417-200-3500. That's KIT, K-I-T, to 417-200-3500.
Barry Watts and the team at Wealth Care Corporation understand no matter how the 2024 presidential election shakes out, it's going to have a huge impact on your retirement. Now, more than ever, it's important that you have a clear understanding of what's at stake with your finances, because as we've already seen, anything could happen. Major election surprises, like the ones we've been seeing, can potentially tip the balance on our economy. We also know our current tax rates are going to expire at the end of next year, and then they'll go back up. Do you think your finances are ready for all of this? Barry's election stress test can help you find out. Schedule yours today with the Wealth Care Corporation team by calling or texting ELECTION to 417-200-3500. That's ELECTION to 417-200-3500. Call or text ELECTION to 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services offered through duly registered individuals through Wealth Care Asset Management, LLC. An investment advisor in the states of Missouri and California. Investing involves risk.
Are you worried about where your money will go in retirement? No need to worry. Barry Watts is here to help you plan for your retirement future. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to set up a meeting with Barry Watts to see what he can do for you. Again, that's text VISIT to 417-200-3500 today.
Well, time on the Watts on Wealth radio show to open up and get into Barry's email inbox and go over some of your common retirement questions. Barry, I know regarding writing the book, you did use a lot of real-life questions in writing the manuscript for your book, didn't you?
Oh, we do use real-life questions, yes. And that's, how we get most of the material for all of our shows and everything we do is by questions that people ask us.
Okay. Here's our first one. I'm still quite a few years away from retirement, Barry, but I have no idea what my savings target ought to be. So back to the savings total. How much would I need to save so I would have a comfortable retirement?
Well, the first thing you need to do, Ralph, is define the word comfortable retirement. What does that look like?
What's good for you?
Because for some people, a couple of $1,000 is enough every month. And for other people, $10,000 is a comfortable retirement. And for some people, $10,000 isn't enough. So can I say it's a dumb question, Ralph? I mean, I don't mean to be offensive, but it's not a dumb question. You're just thinking about it the wrong way.
There's no standard answer for that Barry can
that's
give.
The point.
Yeah.
We recently produced the movie, The Psychology of Retirement. It'll be rolling out here after January the 1st in theaters in Springfield. It's called The Psychology of Retirement. And when we produced that movie, we actually sat down people in front of the camera and we asked them, among other things, we asked the question, how much money do you need in retirement? And I remember one lady said $100,000. And, a lot of people said, they would stumble around, but they'd come up with $1 million. And one guy came up with like 4 million isn't enough. How much money do you need in retirement? Again, it was a dumb question for us to ask, actually, because that's not the way you approach this. What you figure out is what your sitting on the porch number is, and then you work the math backwards. And then when I say work the math backwards, we go through that process that helps us to take the sitting on the porch number, subtract out the amount of guaranteed income you have from Social Security and pensions, and figure out if you have a shortfall. And many people will have a shortfall. Then we take that shortfall and we say, well, if I withdrew that much money from my retirement accounts every month, how long would my money last? Well, if you run out of money at age 80, well, your money didn't last long enough. That's not going to be a comfortable retirement. So it doesn't work. You've got to have income all the way to 100. But it's a math question. And it first starts with defining what the word comfortable retirement is. So my point is this idea of, well, everybody needs $1 million to retire. Balderdash. It doesn't work that way. It's really, when I hear people pontificate on you need $2 million to retire, it just tells me they don't know what they're talking about. So the only way to get there is do the math. We help people with that math because we know people don't know how to do that math. It's not rocket science, but you got to get yourself into the space where you're thinking about it. And so when we do retirement income planning for folks who come see us at the Wealthcare Corporation, we help them figure out whether or not they have enough money to get them all the way to the end of life to pay all the bills that they want to pay, whatever those bills are, at whatever amount they define to be the comfortable retirement for them.
We haven't talked about the Springfield real estate and rental property situation financially, Barry, since the interest rate cuts. So this person is asking, and we'll ask you again, are rental properties around the Ozarks a good source of income for my retirement?
All right, let's think about that question for a minute, Ralph. Are rental properties a good source of income? Well, is the property rented? Because having a rental property, but it's not rented, well, then it wouldn't be a very good source of income. Well, how much is it rented for? And how much is the payment and the taxes and the maintenance and the insurance on that property? So is the number a positive number or a negative number? Ralph, I know people who are very wealthy and they own nothing but rental properties, and they're doing fabulously well on them. So that can be a super tool to use. But the problem generally is that rentals have to be managed. And my experience is that most people love rentals until they don't. And when the management gets a little bit overwhelming, gets to be problematic, then they start shaking their head and saying, I just don't have time for this. I don't have energy for this. I don't have money for this. I'm not really making any money on it. It's not something I want to do. In fact, I just had a conversation with myself this morning. Do you ever talk to yourself, Ralph?
Yeah, and maybe sometimes in the mirror, but that could be a little weird. But yeah, we talk to ourselves, don't we? Yeah.
So the conversation I was having with myself is, I'm interested in a lot of different things, and I see business ideas and opportunities. I'm driving down the road. I'm like, well, it would be really good if we had a this or that, and how could we do that, and who would we get to run that, and how much would it cost to start that, and so forth. So I was doing that with myself earlier today on the way into the studio here, and the thought that occurred to me was, Barry, you dummy. You don't have enough time to take care of all the things that you take care of now and have enough free time to enjoy life the way you want to enjoy it. Why in the world would you complicate your life with something else that has to be managed and spoken into and touched and supervised and overseen and fixed when it's not operating properly? Why would you complicate your life when you can hand that money over to professional money managers who do it that way, who will just send you a check for just letting them manage the money instead of you having to manage it yourself? So what I figured out for me is I don't need any rental properties. I used to own, by the way, Ralph, over 200 of them. 200?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 200 individual doors. And that was a headache. And right now I do own one property, but it's the property, the office building where our company is located over by Battlefield in 65.
Yeah.
And I don't have any more rental income commercial property of any type. And for me, the answer is no, because I don't want to manage it. So that's my thought on that topic.
And I always add in on this question, Barry, friends, if you are a rental property owner, if it's a couple or up to 200 as Barry had, if you're handling all the maintenance yourself, all the time that takes, or also if you contract that work out to somebody else and have to deal with them and paying them and making sure the money comes in to get the contract work done. But also the other part I want to mention is if you want to get out of rental properties, I would sure call Barry. So Barry, you could definitely help them plan an exit strategy if they go, I would rather have Barry manage the money that I have instead of making it this way. I'd love to get out of it. Can you help me with that? And you can help them, right?
Yes, we can, Ralph. And that brings me to something else I want to point out about rentals, because there's somebody listening to us today who's already kind of turned off because he's saying, yeah, there you go. I told you that Barry guy doesn't know anything. The best thing about rental properties is the tax breaks. And the way you get tax, so let me address that. The way you get tax breaks in rental property is you take depreciation as an expense.
Depreciation of the property.
That's right. So you make $10,000, but you have $10,000 worth of depreciation, so you don't have to pay any tax. Therefore, the $10,000 you made feels tax-free. But here's what happens. You take that $10,000 in depreciation every year, or whatever the number happens to be, and you get to the end of owning that property and you get ready to sell that property. Well, the property sells for what you gave for it or more. So you have to recover all the depreciation, and now you're going to pay tax on that. Now, fortunately, there are some strategies that we use, Ralph, that can help people to avoid even those taxes. And I'm not just talking about the conventional strategies that real estate agents will introduce to you. I'm talking about tax strategies from the tax code that will be beneficial. So some things that most people don't know about. So yes, we can help people unwind real estate portfolios. It's complicated. There are a lot of steps you've got to take, but don't bring the argument to me that real estate is so great because of taxes. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And I understand how that works, but it comes back and bites you in the butt when you sell the property on the other side.
But Barry, I definitely wanted to ask you about for the people who want to get out of it and how you can help them with that part of it. This person writes in, I have a pretty good handle on our financial plan. Good for you on that. And I'm worried that I'm missing something. Do you have some kind of retirement to-do list at the Wealth Care Corporation, some kind of a checklist to help me make sure I'm not forgetting to do anything?
Well, let me just say you are missing something. I've never had anyone come sit down with me yet who had all the boxes checked off.
Okay.
We don't have a list that we hand out. I know intuitively what the list is, and the list changes a little bit depending on what people bring in. Did they bring in rental property or not? Have they got this income, that income? What's their source? How much, and so forth. So better than a checklist, I would recommend a complimentary, meaning it doesn't cost anything, second opinion. Come sit down and let us talk to you about your situation. You see, people want a shortcut. They want to just send me the checklist and I'll just check off the checklist and we'll be done. There isn't a checklist. There is no shortcut. You can't get there the easy way. You got to get there the hard way by having conversation and answering questions like, so how much sitting on the porch money do you want? That's what's required, but we're happy to do that for you in a complimentary session at the Wealth Care Corporation.
And get that complimentary chat with Barry going at 417-200-3500, 200-3500 right here in Springfield. Let me pick out one more good one. You got time for one more question, Barry. If I'm retiring in the next 5 years or so, is it more important for me to max out contributions to my retirement accounts, or do you think I should focus more on building up my emergency fund?
Well, I would hope that somebody who's 5 years away from retirement already has their emergency fund built out. Now, this person indicates they don't, and this is a judgment-free zone, so we're not condemning you for that. But I want to say to others who are listening, you need to have that put in place when you're in your 20s, and then you need to be growing that emergency fund over time as opposed to 55 or 60, and you don't have an emergency fund set back. So what I would do, though, to answer this question is I think it's more important to max out the contributions to your retirement accounts. And then build your emergency fund incrementally, $1,000 here or $1,000 there over time. May take you 2, 3, 4 years to get there. But let's be sure and fund the retirement, because nobody really cares whether you retire on the income that you want except you. If you don't focus on that and really focus hard, it's not going to be there when you get to the retirement age. And if you don't have anything to work with, you can't fix the problems. And we can always build an emergency fund as we go, or actually build it later, even after we retire, if we've saved enough money in our retirement accounts. So focus on the right thing would be my advice.
So to get some advice from Barry Watson, once again, as we leave you, friends, at number 417-200-3500 in Springfield. Text the word visit to set up your visit time. Get on that list right away. I wouldn't wait. Get on it right away. And text the word book. And while you're waiting for Barry to meet with you, read through the whole book. Said it's about 137 pages, Barry? About 137 pages.
137 pages.
Very
that's
good.
Right. It's a fairly easy read in a couple of sessions.
And I have the book and I have the Kindle. Sometimes I like to, when all the lights are out, you can read Watts on Wealth on your Kindle or turn the lights up. And sometimes we just like to flip through those pages. You know how that is, to have a paper book in your hand. So either way, great advice on that.
Yes, please buy the book in every iteration possible. But, if you'll just text us, we'll send it to you free.
And join us again next time on the radio. We're here at the same time, same place here on Talk 104. This is Ralph Hipp, and for Barry Watts and the Wealth Care Corporation, thanks for joining us for Watts on Wealth.
Thank you for stopping by Watts on Wealth. If you would like Barry and his team to help you make a plan to get to and through retirement, or would simply like a second opinion on your current plan, give us a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. And join us again next week for Watts on Wealth.
WealthCare Corporation provides tax strategy, tax compliance, accounting, and insurance services through its affiliate American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance never guarantees future results. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as the basis for personal financial decisions without first consulting a qualified advisor. The information and opinions you've heard are believed reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness.